spinning on the pole for the first time and going, oh my God, how liberating this is, because I am the one that's spinning around this pole. I'm not relying on some outside force or object to do it for me. And that was where the empowerment really stuck. So I want to tell you my why. Why am I a feminine energetics and embodiment coach and mentor? Well, my journey began 12 years ago, and it was a very bumpy ride to begin with. I lost my grandmother at age 20, and she was my everything. She was my angel. She was my matriarch. She was the person that really nurtured me well into my adult life. And without her presence, I felt deeply, deeply lost. And so for about a year, I kind of spiraled, not really understanding life, not really understanding why she left. And I had dealt with a bunch of childhood trauma between my mom being a narcotic, an alcoholic, my dad being emotionally unavailable and distant due to the betrayal of my mom's alcoholism and narcotic. And my grandmother was really the only stable force in my life. And really being able to have a moment of deep, deep grief and sadness and understanding what loss could feel like at that moment in time, I knew that I needed to find my way out and back into the light. You see, I've always been a very light being, despite all the childhood trauma that I carried. But that particular year was really, really rough. And I happened to stumble upon a pole dancing class out of all things. And I thought, this would be fun. Why not take a pole dancing class? Why not have physical fitness be fun? Because let's face it, I hated the gym at that point. And what I really came to find was the first time I ever spun on the pole, it gave me as much joy and delight to recognize that there was an empowering way that I could move my body and get myself out of my head that wasn't like when I was 10 years old and I couldn't handle the yelling. I couldn't handle the fighting between my siblings. I couldn't handle all of the responsibilities that I was carrying on my shoulders. And so I would drag this rolly chair down a flight of stairs to sit in the hallway, listening to my cassette player, Celine Dion's My Heart Will Go On, spinning myself in circles until I got so dizzy, I felt like I could fall off that chair. And I did that specifically to get out of my head because the gremlins, the voices that told me that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't lovable, that I somehow created all of this mess were too loud that I needed to spin myself so dizzy to not even think about it. And have a moment at on the cusp of 21 years old, spinning on the pole for the first time and going, oh my God, how liberating this is, because I am the one that's spinning around this pole. I'm not relying on some outside force or object to do it for me. And that was where the empowerment really stuck. And so I signed up for classes. And trust me, I was a broke college student at that point. And yet I knew that there was something here in my gap of growth and that this was possibly the sign that was going to get me out and into that tunnel of light that was at the end for me. And through that journey, I really started to again uncover, what is this part of my body saying? What am I feeling in this moment? What is this song saying to my body, and how am I responding to it? And my journey of embodiment really came from deeply listening to what my body was saying, how she was saying it, the way in which she was asking to be loved. And through that journey, I then started to understand personal development and mindset work. I kind of came into it backwards for most people. But let me say that that was the greatest gift because it has allowed me to be a very unique coach and mentor in the way in which I teach. Because I do understand if the brain doesn't feel safe, how can the body? And so I really learned through the backwards way of doing things how to meet the body in the most gentle, loving, trauma informed way. And it is such a journey, it is such a blessing to walk the women that I have as clients through this work, because really my biggest belief and stand for the work that I do is I truly believe that when women can reclaim their bodies as their own, when they can show up powerful, unapologetic, and unfuckwithable, that will create a stand, a ripple effect so deep in the world that we will eradicate violence. Violence within war, violence against the feminine, against Mother Nature, domestic violence, rape, sexual assault, you name it. Because the feminine is truly very, very powerful. And there's a reason why she has been repressed for a long, long time up until now. The feminine is slowly and greatly rising. We're seeing this all across social media. We're seeing this ripple effect of people banding together and rising. But here's the thing that I want to land with this. It is not about women rising so much so that we bash men and we shame them when we put them in some corner, because we too have felt that way. We as women get to powerfully stand in being responsible for everything that has been created up until now. And you can say, well, that's unfair, Megumi, that's unjust, that's just ridicule. And here's the thing. If we ultimately want to create the peace that we see, if we ultimately want to show up in such a powerful stand where, again, we are unfuckwithable, we are not looking to the past and continuing to create blame and shame and fault for it. We're standing in this present moment, asking ourselves, what's next? What else do we want to see unfold? What else do we see as possible? And so from this place, I encourage you to really look and see, who are the men in your life that you can uplift? Who are the beings in your life that can learn from this feminine essence of who you be and how you show up in the world? Because that is what matters. When you lead as the light leader in your life, when you lead with such radiance, with such magnetism, everything else will follow suit. We don't need to be showing up as the warriors anymore. And again, as someone who has been a warrior for most of her life, let me tell you, it's a beautiful masculine characteristic. And that's not what's going to change and transform this planet. Coming into trust and surrender, allowing yourself to find grace from within, letting your wildness, messiness, chaotic self, and all of the rainbow of your emotion be expressed and enjoyed is also part of the process. And let me tell you, it will feel vulnerable. It will feel scary. It will feel tender. But this is the space in which I and my community hold you in. Because true growth comes from being seen, being witnessed, being heard, being loved, knowing that you matter, and feeling cherished all throughout that process. Allow yourself to open into a new experience where, for once in your life, you can allow such a gaze to penetrate you so deeply that it opens up a space within you that you didn't even know possible. And that is where you can find true freedom, true fulfillment, and true pleasure. Because I truly believe that pleasure is your birthright. And what do I mean by that? Pleasure is your birthright is my way of saying that we as humans are here to experience the greatest, most awesome experience that life has here to offer. We are living in an abundant, magical universe. And in this lifetime, all of us have had struggles. All of us have had pain. All of us have had tragic incidents or moments or stories that we carry within our bodies. But here's a truth to all of that. Without our pain, without our suffering, we couldn't know enlightenment. You see, we live on a spectrum of duality. We only understand things through, interestingly enough, a comparison lens. It's just how we are built as human beings. It is not wrong. It is not bad. It is not good. It is not right. But it is important to note that the way in which we take in our information is we are either looking at it from the glass half full or the glass half empty. And so you can keep looking at all of the pains of your past through that glass half empty. Oh, it didn't work. Oh, it's not good enough. Oh, I wasn't lovable in that moment. Or you could choose to shift the way in which you look at life and you see life through a glass half full. Maybe there was something else going on in that moment that I just wasn't able to see. And can I go back and reshape and reform and become responsible for how I view this moment in time? And let me tell you, when you can start standing in this new formed way of living into the memories of your past and allowing them to shape you for who you want to be in this moment and forward, that is truly you standing in the birthright of pleasure, the path that you are on to create joy, to create fulfillment, to create contentment and purpose in your life. Because ultimately, that is what the pleasure is here to bring you, is a way through the pain and out on the other side. And that again is the full circle of my journey of going through so much pain through my childhood and through the loss of my grandmother and going, there's got to be something more on this other side, and choosing to find it and choosing to say, this is what I want. And I'm going to keep looking towards what I want, not what I don't want, but what I want. I would love to know, what did you think of this video? Please comment below, what were your greatest takeaways? What is that golden nugget that sat with you that you are taking out and into the world? Because let's face it, transformation only occurs when you're willing to take action on it. So share below. That will ensure that you have really taken in this wisdom and you're going to amplify it in your life. And of course, if you loved this content, subscribe. And then you can always check your notifications so that you get all content that comes through. Because one of my greatest pleasures is to be able to see this energy being amplified and rippled into the world.